Hello, everyone. Hi, hi, hi. Welcome into another episode of Locking In for 2026, a year of finding balance. And gosh, like I'd said, this year is not a diet year, right? It's not a diet year. I'm really learning how to continuously to support my body every day, showing up without it feeling like a diet, without it needing to be a stop and start so I can finally achieve, yes, that consistency, but the groundedness, the not needing to change anything up because what I'm doing is working and keeping my hormones regulated, right? Supporting myself through perimenopause, menopause, right? Being able to go into my 80s and 90s, right? Like I'm in it for longevity, right? And I am been not in longevity for a very long time because I didn't know how. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start. I only knew diets. I only knew the diets that worked for me, like the keto or low carb, right? Not necessarily keto, because I feel like that's a little bit too intense for me, but low carb, right? I discovered that a long time that seemed to work better. My body, in terms of my body, felt better on it, right? Like I like higher fat tasting foods, right? Uh, and sugar, I can eventually get out of, right? Because it's just a dopamine hit, it's a habit. And, carbs, like, I'm not a huge lover of them. I do like my bread, but like pastas and things like I won't be eating mac and cheese. Like that's just not me. I don't even really like cheese that much. But anyway, in terms of the carbs, right? So it took me time in my life to figure out that because I had tried low calorie, low fat, like back in the day when they were telling you, right? Like fat is not good. And yeah, you can lose weight and you can change your body composition in any of those ways, any of those capacities. But can you do it for long term? And then can you do that for the rest of your life, right? So that's what long term is for me. And can you do it for the rest of your life? But can you do it in a way that's going to positively impact your body, right? That's what I was always looking for throughout many years of my life. And I had been playing with different diets, different ways of eating. And then when I found out like I had an eating disorder and that the diets were just like not stopping it, right? It was trying to control it. And then when I tried to control it, it would blow up and bigger, where then I would eat way more, gain more weight, right? So it was never easy for me. It wasn't consistent for me, right? And then when I finally discovered that, I was trying to diet because of how I wanted other people to see me because I cared more about that. And I actually didn't care about myself. I didn't care about myself wanting to feel better, to look better for me, right? It was always an external approving, right? Because I learned as a kid that in order to be safe in this world, you had to look a certain way. And to get love, you had to look a certain way. To be desirable, you had to look a certain way. And of course, I want to feel safe. I want to feel like I'm a part of the club, right? The gang, the people in the world. And so I strove to try to look a certain way, be a certain way, act a certain way, right? But then it gets tiring because that's not you. You're putting yourself in a box that's not you. You're trying to be authentic, or maybe you don't even try to be authentic because you don't know what that really means to you, but you're trying to live your life for you, perhaps. And you're like, man, I can't do that in the box that's been provided for me. Like, I need to get out of the box and stretch my legs because it feels so cumbersome. It feels so wrong. And so throughout my life, I had discovered this in many levels and many layers and decided, okay, I'm just going to stop dieting because that's not helping me. That's not healthy for my mindset. It's not healthy for my internal state of being, right? But what should that look like for me, right? And so it was a journey of, okay, well, let me just first fix my relationship with food because I had found food as a right or wrong situation or a good and bad situation, right? Based on all the years of dieting that I did, that was the message that I got, right? Like carbs are bad, fat is bad, right? Um, and and so the journey, right, was always like morality, right? I mean, even when I was a holistic nutritionist, like the morality behind eating clean, right? Not eating toxins, not eating junk, right? Like being overly that way, that didn't help me either, but it felt morally right, right? It gave me a little chip on my shoulder. But then when I started, like, again, just bucking all that, saying, okay, I need to find my way, I need to figure this out. It was, I'm just going to eat whatever I want. I'm not going to have a good, bad relationship with food. I'm just going to eat and I'm going to enjoy myself. And I'm just not going to focus on rules and regulations, right? And so I was like free range Sabrina out here in the world. And that worked for a time because it helped me to heal a lots of part, like many different parts of myself. It helped me to feel better in my body at any size instead of feeling better when I got to a certain size, right? When I lost 30, 50, whatever, 100, whatever. I personally was lucky to never need to lose 100 pounds, but whatever amounts, right? And I say lucky, I guess, because that feels like a big goal, not because it means anything. It just, for me, that feels like a big goal. And I don't need more, I don't need bigger goals. I've lost and gained probably the same 60 pounds throughout my entire life, right? But yeah, so when I just became comfortable in who I was at any size and did the things in life that I wanted to do at any size, like wear the clothes I wanted to, go out and build the business that I wanted to, right? Like just do things in my life without thinking, especially visibility, right? So when you build a business, you got to be visible. Like right now, I'm visible because I'm creating this a podcast for you guys and I'm on YouTube. So I'm very visible, like physically visible. And that can be uncomfortable, right? But so yeah, like when I was like just okay with that, I'm like, sure, okay, I love myself. But then, wanting to have goals felt like it bumped up against what I was going for, what I was trying to create, right? It was like, ooh, but I still want to, not live in a body that holds on to so much weight because, right, I got to the point because not of the external, but because of how I felt, right? Like low energy, feeling like cumbersome, especially as you gain more weight, right? Like just physically you feel heavier, and then certain movements, and then of course inflammation, and then you come to the point where like, yeah, like I can't sustain this body, because this body, if I keep going in this direction, like when I'm 80, like I'm literally going to have to be on some medication. So the labs, right, that I took gave me some actual data, right? And data, just like weight on a scale, that even took me time to like be okay with, be comfortable with, right? Because I had a lot of morality around that, a lot of self-worth around that, right? Same thing as like calories, like, oh my God, if I eat over my calorie allotment, I'm a bad girl. Like it became that situation, not facts, not data, not neutral. And that's the place I feel like a lot of us need to get to if we are still hung up on the number on the scale, the size of your jeans, right? Because I used to get caught up in there. I was like, oh my God, like I would just, my nervous system would brace when I was like, oh my God, I have to go up a size. Instead of just accepting the data for what it is, that, okay, neutral, this is what's happening. Like I'm increasing, like my body weight is increasing, right? Like, and that's just facts. That has nothing to do with my worth in the world, has nothing to do with my ability to help people. It doesn't have any ability of me being lovable, right? Like that is not connected, right? We've connected it in the world because of perhaps the messaging that we have received from our parents, from births, right? From society, like whatever we have perceived it. But when we also just look at perception, perception is neutral. It's us in our programming that makes it and twists it into it being a positive or negative. Otherwise, it's just data, right? You look out into the world, it's just data. How much you make, it's just data. It doesn't mean you're better than someone, doesn't mean that you're less than someone. It's just data. And so with my health journey, getting the labs was a real like data moment. I was like, okay, so this is what's actually going on inside my body. It gave me peace of mind because it wasn't as bad as I had thought it was in my brain, because I do have health anxiety, and that really just gave me, okay, well, here I am. Okay. I thought I was diabetic, not so much, but I could be bordering on it if I don't do something about it. Right. So it gave me the data for me to then be like, okay, so how am I going to change this? What am I going to do? So naturally, of course, I went back into diet mode of like, okay, well, I know that sugar does not help me, right, in the glucose situation and normalizing my glucose. I also know that, the carbs don't help. I know that the gluten, doesn't really help for me because sometimes it makes my stomach not feel so good, right? I know that oils cause more inflammation, like, those highly inflammatory oils, those cause more inflammation, things like that, right? And so I was like, okay, I hadn't yet looked at it as just data. I had looked at it still as diet, right? And so that's why I started in November, right? And was like, and secretly looking at it as diet. Like there's a subconscious part of our brain and nervous system that are like, beneath, and you can't always see them or understand them. That's why it's so important to give yourself space, like meditate, pray, journal, so you can uncover these things that you're holding back from yourself. Because at the end of the day, your brain is just trying to keep you safe. Your body is just trying to keep you safe. And if that's safe from uncovering new information or not, it's going to do it. And so it's really important to give yourself space to self reflect, to analyze, right? In a non judgmental way, in a neutral data sort of way, because then you can make clear, conscious decisions, right? And again, this is part of the work that I do with my clients, is being able to get them to that place of not overthinking the data, if you want to look at it like that, and being able to make decisions that are clear, that are aligned, that feel good. And so, as I'm going along my health journey, obviously I know this work, but maybe not doing it so much because I always feel like I'm above. I always feel like I'm above the law, so to speak, like that I know so much better because it's what I do, that I just avoid it, right? That I miss out on just really coaching myself, helping myself through it. So my point in saying all of this is that my journey has been, right, when I got the labs, I was able to hold consistency with getting rid of sugar and gluten and oils and dairy and things like that, and then taking all those supplements. And it felt good for a time because I was in that phase that I want to help my body. But that only lasts so long, because at the end of the day, that motivation only goes so far, right? Especially if you aren't that person that actually believes that long term. And if I did, I would already have those results, right? The only reason we don't have what we want is because we can't hold that identity. We don't have the thoughts around it, the behaviors around it, and the capacity to hold it. That's it. That's the only difference. And so building that capacity is always so important. And I will preach that until I pass on from this earth, because being able to structure things in your life to hold them in the capacity that you are able to right now. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to be the rest of your life. That just means right now, because we so often are so focused in the future and focus on past events and thinking things are going to be set in stone, or that the gap is so big in our goals, right? That the big thing we want is so big in our goals that we don't put enough emphasis and importance on the here and now, the presence, the capacity that we have, and working in that. At least I didn't. And my clients don't either, right? It's so focused on the big goal, right? Or so focused on what you could or couldn't do in the past that you're like missing out on going slow and low, building consistency that creates those big compounding effects, right? It's kind of like saving your money or doing a job, like maybe as a kid doing a job of cleaning out your parents' car or whatever it was, or doing some vacuuming and getting $20. And you're looking at it like, well, that's not going to get me to my goal of maybe buying a bike or whatever it is that we desire, right? Like, and so we minimize that and we don't want to do it. Instead of looking at it, well, if I did that every week, then at the end of the month, I'd have $80. That's getting me closer to my bike goal, right? Like that's half my bike goal or whatever. Like we tend to minimize that, right? So my point again is that when we're thinking about low and slow, building capacity and allowing that to be enough, because that's what's going to get us in the identity of the person who has the goal, but also that gets us to the end result that we're looking for, right? And so for me, all or nothing has always been an underlying humming like pattern. And I have bucked that in different areas of my life, but it's still hanging on in the health that I'm working on. Hence why, again, I'm really locking in for 2026. Doesn't mean locking in is going to be perfect every week, every day, but it's going to mean that I'm figuring my shit out and I'm finding what's going to give me what I want, which is consistency, which is what I can hold, my capacity in the now. And so I had that, had a couple months where I was on and then off, right? Holidays. And then the first week of January, locking back in. It's easy, but it's like life happens around me, right? Honoring who you are in this world and what you want instead of making it a moral decision. Like for me, sugar needs to have a place. I don't say I like to say I have a sweet tooth because I feel like anyone cannot, but I enjoy desserts. I enjoy having those things in my life. Whether that is right or wrong doesn't matter. Again, we're not talking about the morality of it or even the fact that yes, that creates a dopamine hit or a dopamine high. You know what? I'm a human being on a human journey here. And at the end of the day, if I want to have a little bit of sweet treat in my day, as long as I'm in the capacity, then I'm not going to shame myself for that, because that will make me consistent without the morality attached to it, without it being a right or wrong, without it being terrible and causing cancer or whatever else you want to think, right? Like, we got to do what we have to do that works for us, and that creates consistency. I can't say that enough. I missed the boat for many years on the consistency and the small compounding effects. I didn't quite get the memo to where I understand it today. And that's why I really want you, and why I'm having this conversation, and why I want us to have this talk around it, right? So this past week, I have found what consistency looks like to me. So, like I said, a little bit of sweet in my day makes me happy, but within a container, because I had told you before in another episode that a container is very important, because it helps your brain to not be constantly in decision fatigue, right? Of, can I have this? Can I not have this? Should I have this? Right? Do you think about all the decisions that are surrounding, if you struggle in the way that I have with weight, with diets, like the whole nine, emotional eating, you name it, all the decisions that are around just one task of, what do I have for breakfast, or what I want to drink, right? Or what am I going to eat, or right? Like, it is a lot. So when you have a container of something that works for you, need a container. It offloads from your brain, and it makes consistency so much better, right? But that container needs to work for you. And so I, this past week, was like, okay, back to basics here. I had decided that, let me think about it as a math problem, right? My journey to health. And my journey to health obviously is a body composition situation as well. Like, I had been eating X amount of calories every day for a long period of time, and it's gotten me to the body composition that I am today. I'm not looking at it as I want to change my body composition as much as I want to improve on my health and the way my body feels. But obviously, the composition is what's creating some of these other problems, right? For me, and how I feel in my body, and supporting long term, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't need to change anything and do anything, because I'd already be set to go. But my labs tell me otherwise. Again, it's just physiology, it's facts, it's math, right? It's logic, it's reason, it's reality, it's factual, right? Like those words, right? It's not airy fairy worth, self-worth, or any of that tied into it. It's just facts. And so when I was looking at that, I was like, okay, let me look at it as a math equation. So how many calories am I eating per day? And so I got curious, and I figured out, oh, okay, well, Sabrina's eating a lot of calories. She's eating like 4,000 calories a day. And she's also like mindlessly eating because of the quality of her food, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, let's make some containment situations here. Let's try to aim for a certain amount of calories that would put me in a deficit. And I'm not talking those, oh my God, like, when you go into, I use my Fitness Pal to track, because I just like it. It's been around forever. I'm comfortable with it. It doesn't matter if, whatever. For me, I use that. I need it. Like, I don't need it, but I use it because I like how easy it is. You do you. It doesn't matter what you use. But it'll start off with 1,200 calories usually if you're trying to like lose weight. That's not enough. Okay. And as a holistic nutritionist, that is not fucking enough, right? So you got to find factual calories for you that you need to run your body, because there's a lot of calories that, excuse me, that your body needs just to make your heart beat, breathe, just sit, right? Not even go out and run a marathon, right? That's a whole other amount of calories. So we need to understand that, love that, support that, because that's your body, right? But we need to understand that that's base, right? And usually that's around the 1,600 calories. And then you add on, okay, what's your day like? What kind of movement do you do? I'm not a very active lady, right? I do a lot of sitting because I'm on the computer, I'm on my phone, right? I am, yes, buzzing around doing some housework here and there. I also like to stay in my house a lot, but sometimes we'll go out with the kids, we'll do theme parks. So it's not consistent though with the amount of energy I expend, right? So for me, I discovered what is a good amount of calories, right? And so from there, it was more like, okay, let me see how that looks for me, right? And I was noticing all kinds of things. Again, I'm being a detective, right? And I was noticing, obviously, the foods that I want to eat in the morning. Like, I love nothing more than a pastry in the morning. I love me a scone or croissant, or, right, and coffee. But those are high calories, right? So it's not a big amount for my buck. And this might seem very rudimentary to you if you're listening to this, and like, duh, but hear me, because it's really this simple, right? it's making these decisions, and I'm sharing these with you in case your brain can't quite see it as plainly as mine couldn't and now does. So, I was eating a lot of high calories, but not going to sustain me for long or creating for me a situation where obviously my blood sugar drops and then my body's like, oh, you're hungry again, right? You're hungry again, even though, I just ate and I ate maybe 500 calories in like coffee and a pastry or whatever, right? So obviously you utilizing that strategy is not very wise, not very smart because I'm going to explode on my calories all day because I'm going to be eating every couple hours because my blood sugar is going to drop and it's going to want more. And if I keep eating those high calorie, low nutritionally dense things, then that's going to be just all day over calories like I had been living, right? And so it's really like, okay, well, what do I need to prioritize to get me to be able to have my calories, where it's at, which would be a deficit overall, and also enjoyment, right? And so focusing again on protein forward has helped me. That was really like, oh, okay, I guess that was wise. Protein first, croissant or scone second, right? Because again, protein's going to get me to the next meal, to the next meal, to the next meal. And also containment. Like, okay, let me have one treat a day. Let me have one enjoyment a day, right? Like, so making decisions and spending your calories wisely, but making sure those calories are supporting you, because I used to feel so hungry, but it doesn't have to be, right? So protein focused, right? That's what I'm doing for this past week, what I'll continue to be doing, because I'm still having my treats, still having my scones, right? Still having my coffee the way I like it, but continuously making upgrades that support my calorie expenditure and my feeling full and happy, right? And for me, that's consistent because as long as I can still have my scones, right? Because again, diet behavior has led me to tense up my nervous system to be fearful of, oh my gosh, like seriously, when's the foot gonna drop? When's the shoe gonna drop? Right? When am I gonna be back to hardcore restriction? Right? But I'm not. And so my body's relaxing, my nervous system's relaxing, and that's making it consistent because my brain's not constantly thinking, but what about this? What about this? What about this? Instead, it's like, no, you get to have all that. You get to have it in this container, and we're focusing in this direction. And we can keep making improvements as the year goes on. But it's something that I can hold, I can do every day that does not take away anything from me. And for me, that works. I've also added in 15 minutes of lovely movement to support my body because and doing some rehab on my structure because my glutes have been, because I do a lot of sitting, have been underactive. And so I've been having a lot more hip pain and low back pain because of that. And I don't like that. But instead of going from 0 to 60, going from not activity to going to the gym and lifting weights and hurting myself and then setting myself back and then creating all of this diet trauma like stuff in my head because exercise needs to be intense, right? No, we start at 15 minutes, right? And we work our way up without pain. And that's where I am right now. So again, slow, consistent capacity is what is going to carry me through the rest of this year. And so I want to share all that with you. Again, it seems very rudimentary, very like, duh, but it's really what it takes. Finding what works for you, finding what you can do consistently that doesn't put you into a panic, fearful nervous system state, because when you are, it won't last. It's got to be like, oh, okay, this is cool. This works for me. This is awesome, right? Without lying to yourself, because I've done that too. So I hope that this served you in some capacity. I love you so much. And I'll be back next week to share how it's all going with me and for me. Bye.